Hello, friends. Welcome back to Lead to Gold if you've been here before, and welcome in if this is your first time listening. This is episode 10, and I kind of can't believe it. I can't believe it has been almost 5 months since I started the show. That's wild. That is so wild. And I'm getting really caught up in all of the changes that have happened in those short 5 months. But at the same time, as it tends to go, how so little time has felt like it's gone by. Do you know what I mean? It's 5 months isn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but wow. I did an entire 75 soft, which we have talked about in a couple of the earlier episodes. And I feel like I'm making a lot of progress in my personal life as far as personal goals and routines. I want to just take a second. I don't know why this is coming up right now, but I want to take a second to acknowledge that for literal years now, probably since 2017, 2018, I have really struggled with needing literally all of the sleep that I can get and not ever having enough and sleeping in and taking naps and all of this stuff. If you know me, if you have been kind of following my work, I feel like that's all I talk about. But I'm proud of myself because in the past 2 weeks, my partner and I kind of on a whim decided that we were going to start waking up at 6:30 to go to the gym before we go to work. I won't get into all of the nitty gritty details as to why that is, but in any case, I am feeling really good about it. I actually feel like I have way more sustained energy throughout the day. I didn't nap today, and it is 6:30 p.m. at this point. I've been awake for 12 hours, and I feel good, which is not something I thought I would ever hear myself say anytime soon. So I'm celebrating that little win in the midst of a time where, in general, things are just insane right now. School is ending, but there's still a good month and some change to go. So stuff is going crazy. I feel like I have been nonstop swamped with grades to do. And yes, if you are also a follower of the podcast, you might have noticed that this episode is a day late. And I am so sorry for that, but I'm going to be real with you. There's a lot going on. So thank you for bearing with me and for being patient. I am so happy to bring you today's episode, which features one of my best friends, Powell. And in this episode, we are talking all things getting outside, all things nature, all things granola girl, but we coined a new term, which I will let you hear for yourself. I genuinely want to make merch out of it. Not that this podcast is big enough for that yet, but hey, maybe one day. Kay is a environmental scientist. She studies ecology and climate policy, and she is currently doing all kinds of field work with outdoor classrooms and engagement programs for kids. And she does mention some other career paths that she would like to take on shortly as we talk about it in this episode. So I'll let her do most of her, introduction for herself, but just to give you a little scope. And in this episode, we really just wanted to try to focus on the things that we can do for ourselves to get involved in the workings of Mother Nature and to really reacquaint with her, or just acquaint with her for the first time ever if we're not used to doing that. But also to do it in a way that brings joy, not something that feels like an obligation, not something that feels like climate work, if you want to say something like that. Like, you don't have to be a climate activist. You don't have to be an environmental scientist. You don't have to have any involvement whatsoever in the field of environmental whatever to love Mother Nature. And I think we know this, but we're trying to facilitate a conversation here where we can get even more involved and get even more people in our lives involved in whatever way that means for them. I think part of climate activism, to be quite honest with you, has to do with that relationship with our mama. And we can only do that, really, we can only facilitate that relationship if we find ways to enjoy it that are unique to us and true to us. So we're going to get into that in this episode. Just as a reminder, if you are listening to this in April of 2023, we've got a couple days left. I am still hosting the donation giveaway that is going to benefit a couple different organizations relating to climate action. So if you are somebody who is looking for an easy way to get involved, this might be your answer. If you rate this podcast, if you haven't already done so, I will donate $5 to Project Drawdown, which is an excellent, amazing, crazy, wonderful organization that is getting really involved in like all areas of climate activism. Their information is in the show notes because they do a much better job explaining what they do than I ever could. If you want to look into that, it's there. And another thing, if you subscribe to the blog, Lead to Gold, which the link for that is also in the show notes, I will donate $5 to the Clean Air Task Force. Similar vibes, a little bit more centered on air quality and just, making sure that we are doing all that we can to keep it clean. They're all such amazing people. They are both wonderful organizations that really, really deserve some help. So if you are interested, go ahead and do those and maybe match me in the donation. I have already pledged just from my own finances that I'm going to donate $100 each to both organizations. And that's my little contribution for right now, as well as other little things that I'm doing around the house. And this is not just for Climate Month. This is not just for Earth Day, which just passed us by. This is all the freaking time because we're past the point of needing just one day to recognize all of the Earth's gifts. I mean, we live here. We got to take care of it. So anyway, without further ado, I don't want to talk on too long. Enjoy this episode. If you get something out of it, if you feel like somebody that you know would enjoy it, send it their way. Let me know your thoughts. And I am just so happy to talk with you all about any of this stuff. My DMs on Instagram are open. You can find the link for that as well in the show notes. But here we go. Enjoy. I love you so much. Okay. So, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I always love doing this because it just feels really like casual, but also funny and weird sitting on my couch. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask, just to kind of get the show started for people that don't know you, what do you do? What do you study? And what do you hope to be doing with your life, I guess, in the short term?
Yeah, okay.
For now, foreseeable future.
Yeah, so it's Kay, and so I graduated recently with my degree in environmental science and policy, and that had a concentration in ecology. And for the last few years and most of my college career at George Mason, I've been working as a field interpreter or a specialty instructor, which are just terms meaning I teach science. Not like in the same type of level you do in a classroom, but they call them like an outdoor, like living classroom. So usually just working with kids, teaching them about things that I'm really passionate about, which are topics like mycology and herpetology. So big fan of fungi, love reptiles and amphibians. But in terms of a career, right now I'm looking more towards either soil science or wetland delineation. So,
ooh, tell me about that. What is that?
So with wetland delineation, you basically get to work with different areas throughout usually your locality, and you go in and you kind of differentiate between, all right, which of this is like land that could be used for construction or land that needs to be used for wetland specific purposes. So actually recently we were in the car on the way to brunch, and there was an apartment building being built, and they had a huge setup outside with all these little flags. They were building a wetland next to the highway to catch all of the runoff from the roads.
I remember.
Whatnot. So that's really what I want to do.
Okay. Interesting. Awesome. And like, was that part of your degree? Did you get, okay.
So I actually took several lab classes where I was able to do this on a very small scale and get a taste of it. And it honestly just blew me away. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Cool. I love that. I had no idea actually about that side of things.
Yeah.
That's sick. Okay. Another thing, and I feel like you and I, we haven't talked about this in the level that I've always wanted to talk about this with you, but I'm very curious what sort of got you interested in climate studies and just like what made you sort of a nature lover in your youth, because I don't know, I have a feeling that we are very similar, but I want to know.
I was about to say, I feel like we both have like goblin energy in a way. And I mean that, I love you so much, you know, I mean that in a positive way.
Wait, can we define goblin energy?
Okay, so
for you.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like for me, I've always been like a weird little creature. Like I love dirt, I love mud, I love getting my hands dirty. But like as a child, like I would go outside and like cake myself in mud and like play with worms and like catch frogs and like, you know, eat random things that I found outside.
Yes.
Which, you know, I learned now as an adult that you can eat pretty much everything once, but that doesn't mean you're gonna be okay. And,
okay. Wait, okay, there's a story there and we'll circle back, but
oh my god. But yeah, I love being outside and spending a lot of time by myself, and I've always, like, even since a child, I've always done that. Just wander through the woods.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you have like a specific, maybe not first memory, but the first time that you ever were out doing your thing, goblin mode in our definition, and then like realize that this is something that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I do remember. So as a child, my dad used to take me outside all the time. He's a huge nature lover, huge conservation guy, really big into hunting. And we have family property pretty close by on the Bull Run Mountain, and he would always take me, and while he's doing his thing, you know, using his machete to chop down trails for like our family to be able to go to different parts of the property, I was always just straight up wandering. And like, you know, as long as I was in eye shot or ear shot, it was all good. But I mean, I was finding salamanders, and I was obsessed with rocks. I was a little rock hound. I mean, any kind of like quartz or limestone, like I was all over that. And I think my dad really nurtured that and appreciated that, because out of my siblings, I'm the only one that's like him in that regard. So it was fun.
Are we gonna make dad cry again?
I mean, honestly, I could.
I love it. I feel like, I think that's really interesting that it kind of came from your family for you, because in my experience, I really didn't get that. It was very individual for me, and I don't know exactly what sparked it, but I do vaguely remember just kind of learning about almost going green in 3rd, 4th grade or whatever. And that was what kind of got me interested in it. And I think I was always an outdoorsy kid. Like in the last episode, I talked about just doing the same thing, playing in dirt, like finding bugs, whatever. But I never really associated that with being a tree hugger, if you want to say that. Until I was in school, and then actually learning about like why it's important to recycle and all of the ways that we can save energy and things like that. So I think that's interesting. And I remember actually like not yelling at my parents, but being like, we need to recycle. Like, do we actually recycle? Because we need to.
Yeah.
And they're just like, okay.
I do remember that too. At least in Prince William County where I grew up, they like were really big on recycling in schools and taught us that from a very young age. So, I mean, my parents always recycled like the average amount, I guess you would say. But I do remember too, like getting really into it.
Really way too into it.
Than before, when they were telling us like, oh, these are the numbers you can recycle. Like you have like how you have to like treat your recyclables before you put them in that bin. And I think my parents got a little bit annoyed with me at the beginning, but I think now they're pretty solid with their recycling.
That's good. I still get on my parents. Like that was honestly part of the thing that I was like, I need to live alone. Like they don't recycle enough. This is not working. But not to take like a sad turn, but I did want to talk to you also about just the way that I guess, climate action changes as we get older, or maybe not within us, but I guess sort of the things that we start to realize. For example, recycling might really not be all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything about that? Like, have you learned anything about that in your
Yeah,
schooling?
absolutely. And this is really interesting. This is something I talk to my grandma pretty regularly, and she called me the other day out of the blue and was asking me about recycling and whether it really mattered. And I took a really deep breath, and she had thought I had hung up on her and was like, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, "Yes, Nan, I'm here."
Just trying to think of how to explain this.
Yeah. But I do remember in my time in college, I had found out by touring a local landfill facility that a lot of the recycling in the county I lived in was being purchased by another county, and then they no longer had a buyer. So 2 counties were out of a buyer for their recycling, and that was really interesting. And when in touring the landfill, I found out that a lot of stuff actually does not get recycled because it's not properly handled.
Yeah.
So as I
that's a
mentioned
big thing.
previously, like my parents finding out like how to properly, treat things before they put it in the bin. So I mean, a lot of people, I don't think they realize like you really need to wash out your recyclables and like remove the label from the cans if it has one. Like a lot of beer cans have the sticky label. Like you need to take that off, otherwise they're not going to recycle the can.
Right. And okay, this is actually bringing up something. I could go off on a tangent here, but long story short, I did a really big research project on climate education when I was in college. So trying to kind of relate it to high school education. But one of the things that we talked about, or one of the things that I guess I found out about, is that exactly not even so much that people don't know how to do those things, they just don't want to put in the effort.
That's fair, yeah.
And I don't know. I hate to say it, but I'm guilty of that too. Like,
me too.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like, it would be doable if it was easy to do, but it's just not.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we have any like advances in that, or any ideas being thrown around about how to fix that?
I mean, honestly, like the way I look at it in my personal life, because I'm a lazy person. I mean, straight up.
I think we all are in different ways.
Yeah. And one thing for me, like as much as I care about recycling, like I often get annoyed when I'm like, okay, like I can't just throw it in the bin. I do have to recycle it. And I find myself getting frustrated with myself when I feel like that. But like, I always just try to remind myself like, hey, you're trying. You are doing something. And that's a lot more than most people can say. And, no shame to them. If you can't do it, if you don't have the time to do it, whatever. Trying to just at least put a little bit of effort in does make me feel better about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was also something that I talked about on my last episode. I mean, this is a whole other conversation that we could circle back to, but it's obviously not as your own individual self, your responsibility to solve climate change and make everything better. Because like, even if we all as normal humans did that, it doesn't we're not going to make the same difference that politicians and decision makers can make, which is disheartening.
Yes,
right,
to
say the very least. So I don't know, there's no place in like shaming anybody for whatever they can or can't do, because like we're all just trying our best out here.
Yeah,
and before we dive more into that conversation, kind of back to I guess the lighter side of things, because I feel like I want to keep this light, without getting too bogged down in the details and the things that we can or can't do, or we can try to do, but it's just really hard. I feel like focusing on the things that actually bring us joy in climate action can make a bigger difference in the long run, because I don't know, we might be more motivated to keep on going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, one question that I had for you was your experiences outdoors, from being on your parents' land to what you're doing today. What does being outdoors do for you? Mentally, physically? How does it change who you are as a person and how you interact with the rest of the world?
Honestly, I mean, this might sound a bit far-fetched, but I mean, being outside is what like brings me sanity. I mean, I have ADHD, and like I'm not ashamed to talk about that. I am like scatterbrained and overstimulated all of the time. And when I'm able to like go outside and just like be with myself and my thoughts, it helps me connect to nature so much more than in my regular daily life, because I mean, being inside, like, your phone is usually within your reach. You can just grab that and do whatever. But when I'm outside, I can really, like, clear my head a little bit. And even, like, through working in, you know, environmental education, I feel the exact same way. I'm able to clear my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I feel the same. And it's so funny, too. You just mentioned the phone thing. I full on will lose my phone if I go outside with it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll just leave it somewhere. It happens all the time. And then I'll come back and be like, oh, shit. It's been like 6 hours.
I remember one time, it was about this time last year, and I was up looking at some of the tadpoles on my family's property, and I had taken like thousands of pictures and video, and like I sat my phone down on a rock and I just kept going, and it's like 3 hours later and I'm like,
you're like,
oh god, like no one knows where I am right now. I don't even have service. Like, if anything were to happen, God forbid, because I just wander like aimlessly.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But I guess my saving grace is like all the random cameras my dad has on the property and checks every once in a while. So.
Okay, so we knew where it was. That's good. But that's exactly something I would do also.
Oh yeah.
When you are, you know, you're in your spaces, you're outdoors, you're feeling really, I feel the same way. It calms me down like nothing I can explain. And another thing that I find interesting is that for some reason it's water that does that for me specifically. I feel like I need to do some more exploration on that. And hopefully this summer I will be able to. Yes. But that just, the connectedness is so underrated, especially now. And I feel like everybody talks about it, but how could we potentially bring that into more conversation? I guess when we're talking about, I don't want to say the magic of nature, but the peace that it brings. It's like we talk about it, but I don't know that we're really getting people to do it, like to spend time outside.
Yeah. And I think that can be really difficult, just to get people outside, because at least in my experience with some of the people that I've been around that are kind of hesitant to spend time outside, it's more of what's in the woods, not the woods as a whole. It's there are bugs in the woods and I don't like that. Or it's too dirty. Like, there's too much dirt. And it's like, well, I think one thing, actually, I was talking to, God, I can't even remember who it was, but in a lot of my time at Mason, they were trying to frame for us that it's not dirt, it's soil. So when you look at it as soil rather than dirt, you're looking at the microbial value that the soil has, the nutrient value, like the carrying capacity for life that it can have and provide. And when you look at it like that, sometimes you can reframe like, oh, it's not as gross and dirty.
I love that.
Yeah.
I had never thought about it like that, but that's such a different spin on things.
Yeah.
I love that.
The word dirt has such a negative connotation if you think
right.
about it. Like, let's say, I mean, like I did just walk to your house. Imagine I'm trekking through mud and I just walk in your house. You're going to be like, oh, you got dirt all over my floor. Rather than, oh, you got soil on my floor, right? And soil, it's a much more loaded word. There's more weight to it. But with dirt, it's like, oh, like you're implying that it is messy. It is gross.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with it being in the place that it is.
Yeah. Okay, this gives me something else that I wanted to talk to somebody about.
Yeah.
And this might be getting a little out there, maybe a far reach, but I have also been more aware lately of sort of the connection that women specifically have to Earth, and a lot of the things that we sort of might get scrutinized for, the Earth also gets scrutinized for. And this is, again, kind of out there, but I just am curious if you've ever thought about it in that way. Or like, I don't know, what goes through your mind when we mention that?
So, okay, this is actually really random, but I remember, like, honestly, the older I've gotten, I've developed a more, like, deeper connection with nature, and I feel like it's helped me, like, become more in touch with my feminine side.
Yes.
Like, for example, so there was one time last year I was hiking by myself. It was, like, a random Sunday afternoon, and I was walking around in my sports bra in the woods, and that's something I would never do. Like, I've never been like that comfortable with my body, but I'm like, I'm outside and the earth is showing me all this beautiful stuff, and like, it's comfortable with it. So why can't I be the same? And then it was like, shit, I just had this, like, I mean, within the last few years, like, I know it sounds crazy, but like that moment I was just like, I should feel more comfortable with myself. I get to see all of this beautiful stuff every day. I'm a part of the earth. Why can't I share myself and like be more in tune with what's going on around me.
Yes.
And, you know,
and that is not crazy at all, by the way. Like, at all. I think it's crazy that we as a larger collective consider that crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, just in a sports bra, like it started raining. I feel the rain on my skin, and I'm walking through the shrubbery, and like I'm feeling like leaves on my skin, and it just was the most wonderful, like grounding feeling, and it was incredible.
Yeah, and there's so many epiphanies that come from just having little experiences like that I think on a day-to-day basis we don't think much comes from it. Like, you're just taking a walk in the woods, whatever, but if you really pause and give your brain some space to process what you're seeing, and that's what I love so much about being able to walk alone, you know, as women, another thing that I personally am trying to get over, because I still am not super comfortable, depending on where I am, walking around by myself, but God, I wish we could do that more, because that's the kind of thing that comes from doing that. And that also kind of reminds me of the first instances that I had playing by myself in the backyard, and, you know, having just moments of joy that I can now look at and appreciate. And it's just like, it's wild to me. Like, I could go so much more in depth on that.
Oh, same.
But I guess the whole reason that I brought up the whole like women and the earth comparison was when you mentioned dirt, and such like it has such a negative connotation, and it's messy, and it's like we have so many things about our bodies that are quote unquote messy and gross, and like we want to hide it and like clean it up and whatever. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately too, is especially as women, we really should be integrating ourselves more with the outdoors.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Do you have any suggestions for people who want to more but just don't really know where to start?
Like getting more in tune with nature and being outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, one thing that I've always been passionate about is making art a more natural thing. So I love taking like a sketchbook or even a piece of paper and just even going out in my backyard and just like, you know, 5 things I can see, I'll just immediately like doodle them or something, either on my phone or on a piece of paper. And then the more that I spend time outside, I'm able to recognize these things that I've doodled more. Like, for example, there's been this invasive flower that's growing in the back of my yard. It's a variegated yellow archangel. I had posted about it on Instagram, and I kept seeing it growing for a long time, and I was like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But then I went out there one day, and I actually sat down, I took a picture of it, and then I started drawing it, and I was like, I mean, obviously I need to rip this out. It's an invasive species, but this is beautiful. And then I started looking more around the yard and even just nearby what that flower was. And I started seeing all these different types of leaves and vegetation growing. And then it just made me want to explore more. Now, obviously, I'm a big nature head, so I can't say that everyone will have like the same experience that I do.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I still get kind of, I think I'm a little bit of a baby horticulturist. Is that the right word to use? What's horticulture again?
Horticulture is like the study and like husbandry of plants. So yeah.
Okay. So close-ish. Yeah. I feel like I'm a baby with it because I know some species, but it makes me feel really good when I can walk around and be like, oh, that's an aster, you know, or like, oh, that's
oh yeah,
it's almost like a scavenger hunt just happening.
Yeah, you're becoming a little naturalist.
Right. And it's, I don't know, it feels so good. And I guess that's another thing that I would, even if you don't know what types of plants you're looking at, it'd be cool to be able to walk around and just be like, oh, like that's the one that I saw in my garden recently that I didn't know what it was, but here it is too. And it's, I don't know, just fun little scavenger hunt type things like that. Another thing that's coming up for me as we talk about this is just, I feel like so much of what we can do in 2023 as we're trying to navigate the climate crisis and, you know, feel like we have any sort of power over it is bringing that sort of childlike joy into our experience.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Right? I don't know. It's something that can so easily be so depressing. And I know you and I have talked about the depressing sides of that a lot and have spent more hours than I care to admit doom scrolling and crying about it.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's like in order to not feel like we're completely powerless and hopeless, this is the kind of thing that we do have power over.
Yes.
At least, you know, while we have access. And another thing that I think about too is for people that maybe don't have as much access, like people who live in cities or who don't have a lot of green spaces, do you have any suggestions for how they can cultivate this in their lives?
Honestly, I think the simplest thing would be houseplants.
Mm-hmm. I kind of knew that was going to come up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, growing up at my parents' house, my room was in the basement. I didn't really have a lot of light. So once I got a grow light and was able to keep houseplants, it was like, holy shit, this is so fun. And then it was like, I want to go outside and like, you know, see how the earth, like, God, honestly, I felt really down on myself actually when I started keeping houseplants, because I was like, I don't have the capacity to keep something like this alive. Like my axolotls, my lizards, like my all that other shit, good to go, but plants were so hard for me. But then it was like, I went outside and I was like, okay, like what do these plants really need? Like they're not getting as much like tender loving care as I'm giving the house plants. So kind of once you just like, you know, let it go a little bit, like just let them do their thing and then intervene and give them a little bit of love when they need it. I think that like really made me even more interested in taking care of the earth.
Yeah, for sure.
Seeing what my influence had on a plant that's sitting in my window or sitting under my grow light, and then thinking about that on a larger scale.
Yeah, and we do have the power. And if we don't have that space, I love the whole idea of having houseplants, because that's quite literally bringing nature into your home.
Absolutely.
Which is so nice for so many reasons. And something else that I'm thinking about, you were working with a lot of kids in your experience with your degree and all of your different field experiences.
Yes.
How do you see kids now in 2023 interacting with nature? Does it remind you of us, or do they do differently? How does it come off to you?
Well, in my experience prior to the pandemic, I don't think kids were as interested in it. But after the pandemic, when they were sent home and like doing everything online, they're inside all the time. Now that they're back in school and they're able to go outside, I mean, they freaking lose their minds.
Yeah.
They get so excited. And I thrive. And like that energy that they have just like brings out my inner child. And oh my God, I get the most incredibly thoughtful, intelligent questions from even like second graders that I would never have expected. But it's like they are just so blown away by what's around them. And also when they have a group of passionate people that are teaching them, I mean, they, like I said, they freaking lose their minds.
Yeah, that's incredible. I wish sometimes that I worked in a field that was more like outdoors focused, or you know, I'm not a science teacher, I'm an English teacher, so it can be kind of hard sometimes to bring that into my classroom. But I have found that when it's really nice out, sometimes I'll be like, you know what, let's take the basketball, let's take the soccer ball, let's go outside. And even that is, you know, you're just literally playing outside. But I did that one day this week, and the rest of the week they were like, can we go outside? So in a way that gives me a lot of hope too. And I teach older kids who are very well aware of the climate crisis and the effects that it is having currently on the world. But do you feel like there's hope in the younger generation?
Absolutely. Honestly, I've never been so inspired in my life in working in these environmental education jobs, and
that
it's
makes
a shame
me
that
so
so
happy.
many of them are part-time and they don't pay me enough. But, I mean, it's the most rewarding thing. I mean, I get to go be outside, which is what I love more than anything. And then when there's a group of, you know, I'll see multiple groups of children, at least, you know, maximum 15 a day, plus their parents, and I mean, they're all just like sitting there like just so wide-eyed and like bewildered. And I mean, I just remember being that way as a kid when my dad would take me outside. And I mean, seeing that in the younger kids even inspires me to want to do more than I'm already doing.
That makes me
but I
so
have
happy.
So much hope.
Yeah.
I mean, more so than I did when I started college. I mean, I'm reading all these like really heavy environmental books. I mean, that was honestly one of the lowest points in my life, like when I started going to school for this. And despite it being my passion, I, you know, was really like, fuck, can I do this for the rest of my life? And I had serious doubts. And then my one professor, Dr. Smith, approached me about working for Mason and teaching different students. And I was like, why not? Like, I'll try it and see how it goes. And I fully expected to hate it. And it was honestly life-changing.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear, because as somebody who's, I feel like I'm a little bit distanced from the field of environmental studies, because, you know, it's not what I did. I feel for people that work in that field, because I'm like, how is it sustainable? Like,
Right.
how is the mental health in that? I mean, how do people stay in it?
I think a lot of people, well, at least in my experience working in environmental education, the people do it because it's their passion. I mean, most of the people I worked with in the last county I lived in, not all of them were science teachers or had a science background. We had history teachers and English teachers, actually. And these were people who were just passionate about gardening or passionate about science in some degree. And they were like, I have something to offer. I can offer the educational side. Give me the environmental part. And I mean, you don't even have to be passionate about, like 100% passionate about the environmental thing. If you have that educational background, you can offer so much. You know how to get kids excited. And I mean, most kids do get excited about the environmental stuff. And if you're, extremely knowledgeable, but even just you being there and showing up, they're like, they think you're Bill Nye. And
True.
just like,
True. I have noticed that. We were talking about this literally last night, but it's like the amount of care that you put into things that you're teaching or talking about reflects onto the people that you're working with.
Most definitely.
And I think that's really, honestly, I'm glad we brought that up, because I think that's yet another thing that can be used as a tool to kind of spark change, especially for people that maybe are a little bit resistant or just don't know that there's any joy in the field.
Right.
It's conversations and it's your own joy that you present that can help people kind of break out of the like doom of the climate crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have been sifting through lately, just within your own, I don't want to say mental health, but just things that you have been working on within yourself relating to this? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I find that, I mean, I've always struggled with depression. That's just something with ADHD that is a reality. And that's a tough pill to swallow. It's especially harder for me during the colder times of the year when I can't get outside and access nature to the same degree that I do during the warmer months of the year. So I have been trying to find more natural hobbies to like get invested in. So, during the warmer months, during the colder months, I'll put a little bit more effort into doing random things with my fish or, my salamanders, my lizards,
right.
XYZ. But
bringing nature in.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And one thing I have been doing is you've received gifts and so your partner from me, but
Kay gives the best gifts, by the way.
I am obsessed with entomology and pinning insects, and so during the warmer months of the year I'll collect insects that have died while I'm outside, and I'll keep them in little plastic baggies until I'm ready to use them, and then I'll make something out of them.
They're so fucking cool. Can I talk for a second about the one you gave Mikey? She literally made my partner, what do you call them?
So it was it's one of the European hornets.
A European hornet, but it was like I guess, what is the thing called? The actual, I want to say sculpture, but it's not sculpture.
I guess you could call it a sculpture. I mean, the container I put it in is a golf ball display case.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So it's a hornet in a golf ball display case, riding a skateboard and like chugging a beer. There's like beer cans in there, like little teeny tiny beer cans, and a little tiny skateboard and a hornet. And it's the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life. We literally have it displayed on his bedside table. I mean, it's so cool. I love that shit. You could make thousands of dollars selling those. I'm not joking.
I am very flattered. That is my most unhinged creation.
It's so good, though.
Like, the fact I went out and bought like dollhouse furniture, like miniature like replicas of beer cans, and then I painted one of the cans to look like a beer that like we've all drank.
Oh my god. Okay, and this is the thing too that I love about you is your, not only your attention to detail, but your attention to detail with nature, if that makes sense, because it's like you're bringing all parts of it together, and I don't know, I love your brain. I think it's kind of insane that you can make that. But also back to what you were back to what you were saying with that though, like good on you for finding something that you can kind of transition over into the winter months, because I also struggle with that, and I know probably most people struggle with seasonal depression to an extent.
Yes.
And it is really important to find ways to still have a relationship with nature, but not you know, if you can't get outside, how can you bring it about elsewhere? And for me, that was always snow days, you know. I mean, I love snow for me because it's like you can still get outside, you can still enjoy it, but on the winter seasons that we don't get any snow, it's harder to find ways to kind of interact. But I love that. That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
That one, honestly, it took me a while because finding hobbies can be so difficult. I mean, and I'm such a perfectionist that, you know, but I did pick a hobby that is not easy. And so I think being able to at least say, I know I'm not going to be good at it, like from the jump, and like people I know that have done it saying like, it is a little bit difficult. It is hard.
Yeah.
It made me feel a little bit better about it too.
Yeah. And okay, that made me actually remember one other thing because we had some paint nights. Well, I guess we technically only had one this year, but you know,
thing.
Yeah, that's a good winter activity. And usually I think both of us are paintings and our arts and crafts, for whatever they may be, center around the outdoors.
Oh yeah.
Even when we can't really have access to it, it's like still a part of what we enjoy. So even just cultivating that can help a lot too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, we've been friends for a few years now. Like, honestly, like I've always known you're passionate about nature and the environment, and we've talked about that, you know, since the second we met. But I was really excited last year when you told me you were making a calendar.
Oh yeah.
You had 12 like nature themed pieces essentially, and I was so excited when you shared that with me because it was like, wow, like we even have like a more of a connection than like I thought was there. Like, I knew we both loved art and both loved nature, but like I didn't know that like most of the art that we both do is like themed around nature. And I even have one of those paintings now hanging up in my dining room.
She has the one from October. It's a full moon, like a full orange moon. I love it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. That's so nice.
You're welcome.
This brings me to one last thing that I was never able to put words to this, but I have realized recently that most of my favorite connections with not even friends, but just people that I've just met or people that I've known for a long time have usually circled around doing stuff together outdoors. Some of the best nights of my life were camping or swimming in the river or hiking, you know, whatever it may be. Do you find that to be true for yourself too?
Yes, I actually do want to bring up one of my favorite outdoor memories with you.
Let's go into it.
The first like lake trip that we I guess went on as like a friend group. We were in Smith Mountain Lake, and it was the last day, and we were all just so silly. Like, you know, it was raining for most of the day, so we were trying to bring the energy back. And at one point, you and I were sitting in the shallows, and we were just grabbing handfuls of sand and like talking about like the mermaid show H2O and like doing like mermaid makeup with like mother of pearl. And
my gosh,
I felt like such a kid. It was amazing.
That I totally forgot about that, but that was so much fun. So okay, it's called mother of pearl. Is that the stuff that you like pick up in the sand that's shiny?
Right. Well, that's mica, but like, the shells that we were picking up, it's like mother of pearl. It's usually just like the insides of like mussels or oysters,
got it.
Different kind of like barnacle shellfish type.
Right. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, like as we're talking about this, it's like I don't think it happens everywhere, or maybe even a lot of places, but in this lake that we were in, there's certain parts of the shore that when the water comes in, it's shiny, like it's iridescent almost.
Oh yeah, like it would blind you if the sun hit it the right way.
Yeah,
it's
and
insane.
It almost looks like an oil spill, but it's literally just like little pieces of shell, I guess. And we were quite literally sitting in the shallow end of that water and like picking it up and putting it on our faces. And it was so fun. I just loved that. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. But what a trip.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
Well, and what's funny is I have a picture that we took on the boat on the way back. And like, of course, we were in the sun all day, but both of our cheeks are so rosy. And I swear it's from just rubbing
from that
on our face all day.
Maybe also a little bit of sunburn, but you know, that too. It was a glow. It wasn't, you know.
Internal glow.
I mean, definitely internal glow after that week. Oh yeah. I love that. So, okay, just to kind of wrap up our conversation, because I know we kind of pinballed to a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
What would ultimately be your advice for people who are trying not to get bogged down with all of the bad news about the climate crisis and people who want to help but just get overwhelmed? Because I know that I get that way a lot too. But to sort of, I don't even want to say keep it light, because to an extent we do need to be serious about this.
Yeah.
Like, we need to talk about it, but how can we keep ourselves afloat when trying to deal with it?
I think one thing, and this might sound a bit unorthodox, but honestly, in the times in my life where I've been like the most down and cynical about, you know, just the environment and what we're dealing with today, I'll completely tune it out. I mean, if I find myself like doom scrolling and just spiraling, I will stop looking at environmental stuff online. And I look back at myself and I'm like, okay, like I know all of this bad stuff is going on, but I can't change that just by myself. So what are things that I can do by myself that would help? Recycling, just spending time outside. We're both now vermicomposting, and
We love a vermicompost.
yeah, right? Just like little things you can do. And then when you feel like a little bit happier with yourself or a little bit better in that place, yeah, tune back in. And if it's still too overwhelming, pull back out. And just, again, keep finding little things that make you feel good about what you're doing for the environment in your life. And for a lot of people, and even you talked about it in your last episode, I've read plenty of books about it, even just getting with people and just having simple conversations. I mean, I can't even count how many times like we've just talked about like random little environmental stuff.
Yeah.
And that inspires me.
Yeah.
I think that other people would benefit from just, you know, turning it off and just tuning out sometimes.
Yeah.
Really helps.
I agree. And I think we hopefully are kind of turning a page on that discourse, but for so long it has felt like you're obligated to be in the know 24/7, and just, you guys, we cannot. No. It's not sustainable. It's not good for your mental health. Like, we know this, but just sometimes it's okay to just turn it off.
Yeah. Look the other way.
There's only so much we can do. And I know that that's, again, something that I talk about a lot. You can only control what you do.
Yes.
You know, and so much of what we see with this is way, way bigger than just us. And as much as it sucks, like, as much as we want to help and do something about it, we can't. And right. We kind of just have to let that be okay for what it's worth. So I love that you said that, because I kind of feel like that's becoming my golden rule about a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
But it sucks, but it is what it is.
It does. It definitely helps, though. I mean, sometimes you just need a break. I mean, it's not just environmental stuff. It's anything.
It's life. Anything. Yeah. Like, everything in moderation, I suppose. Yes. You know? I love that. Okay. So usually for my podcast episodes, I like to finish up with a little game. Would you like to pull a card from We're Not Really Strangers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Let's
see what we got.
I've only ever really played We're Not Really Strangers with you and our friend group, and I've enjoyed every single experience we've had with it.
I want to do it more. It's so, like, it's just so fun. All right, let's hope I don't pull a wild card. We'll just see.
I do remember the last time we played this, I think I gave my hottest take ever.
Oh, what was it?
Laughed at me.
Wait, what was it? Oh my gosh, do you remember?
Yeah.
Tell me.
And it is questionable, but God, what did it was something like, I said everyone deserves to be bullied. And I immediately was like, oh God, that should not have come out of my mouth.
So if you didn't hear that, it's that everyone deserves to be bullied a little bit. I mean, I feel like there's something to that. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
But
I think, and the way, like, you know, now that I had, well, it's been a while since I said that, but I have had time to think about it. I've talked with my partner, Ben, about it. And I mean, he's always poked fun at me for saying that, but I was like, you need friends that are going to check you, and you check
That's
friends.
Okay.
And
so
he was like, that's perfect. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the way to unhot take that hot take.
Exactly.
It's not bullying. It's that, like, listen to your friends when they're trying to be fucking honest with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, yeah, if you guys haven't played this game, it's really fun. You should. We always use the healing expansion pack, the healing edition, on this show. And today's question is not actually a question, but we're going to talk about it. So if you would like to, I'm going to put this question on the Q&A of the podcast if you want to respond to it. And here we go. Finish the sentence. I'm working on accepting blank.
I am working on accepting the fact that everything is not always going to be great.
Tell me more.
So yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, but like I have had ADHD since I was a child. Everyone in my family has ADHD, and I always thought it was something like, oh, you'll get over it. It'll, your life will change. And that's one of those things, like, it seems like as I get older, it only gets harder, and it like impacts every aspect of my life. And I really kind of spiral with that thought a lot, and like feeling like I'm never going to be good enough. But recently one of those things is just accepting that it's not always going to be okay, and that's okay. That's what life is supposed to be.
Right.
And that should bring you joy.
Yeah.
Because when things are bad, they're shit. But when they're good, you can look back on those times and you're like, oh God, I've brought myself to this point. Like,
yeah.
It's
like,
going to be okay.
I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was something I feel like I realized recently too, is just that for so long I wanted to just be happy all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I now thinking that I used to think that, it sounds so silly, but it's like everybody wants that. But now I can learn to appreciate that my emotions are a spectrum, and that like my experiences are on a full spectrum, and some parts of that spectrum suck.
Oh yeah.
But that's life, Okay, I'm trying to think of mine. I'm working on accepting. I want to say it's almost similar to yours, but just that maybe I'm not meant to do something great and like world changing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I felt that way too. Like,
maybe it's okay if I don't do anything spectacular with my life.
Oh yeah.
And that has been, I don't know, I'm saying that and I'm like, I still don't fully believe it, but yeah, I guess that's the point of the question. I'm working on accepting that it's okay if I don't make some huge groundbreaking thing happen,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I've thought a lot about. Like, I mean, being in environmental science, like I always thought like, oh, you might be the next Jane Goodall. Like when I studied abroad in Kenya and was doing the wildlife conservation shit, I was like, I'm gonna be the next Jane Goodall. Like, I'm gonna be all over this. I'm gonna change everything. And then it was like, wow, that's kind of a lot.
That's a lot.
I don't know if I can do that. But now it's like, you know what? It's okay, because I can find things that make me happy. And when I feel like I'm making a difference, even if it's small, like, it's good enough.
Yeah, I love that. And wait, what a great way to reframe that thought. Oh my gosh. It's so true, because I used to, or maybe I shouldn't say used to, but I've circled in and out of that way of thinking, and I miss the part of me that was very okay with the people around me are the people that I need to make a difference for, not the whole fucking world.
Yeah.
And I've gotten away from that a lot, and I'm really trying to bring myself back to that, it's the people within my circle, the people that I know. That's who I should be making a difference for, not literally 9 billion people.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for that one.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because I feel like, honestly, I had a moment at one point last year. We were hanging out with all of our friends on a lake trip, and I was like, damn, like, all of these people, like, I mean, some of them I've known for, 10, almost 15 years. And then, like, I've only known you for a couple of years. But I'm like, every single person that we were here with has, like, touched me in some sort of way. And I feel like I've done the same for them. And, like, it makes me feel so good to have such a supportive group of people around me.
I love our friend group, man. Like, it's so special. It's so fucking special. And special that we get to do stuff in nature too, just to tie it all back.
I mean, we actually, that's one thing that's so amazing about our friend group. Like, we all love nature. We are all so passionate about it.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
It's rare, I think, to find that kind of thing in a whole circle of friends. But maybe this is a hot take. You said something earlier about, I guess, negative connotations to dirt and mess and things like that, which we often get from being outdoors. And don't get me wrong, when I am outside for 8 hours a day in the middle of summer, I reek. I want a shower. I want to be clean. I want to have my skin shaved and, whatever. But I've met people, and maybe a little judgment. I've met people that say they hate the outdoors, and I just don't get it.
I don't get it either.
I just don't get it. I know. I'm like, do you never want to open your windows? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I truly, like, no shade, but I don't get it.
I truly don't either.
If you hate the outdoors, can you please tell me how that works? I just want to know.
Yeah. We need someone. We need to hear it. We need your perspective. It's for science.
It's for science, please. We need a social experiment going on here. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This was so much fun. This was very impromptu, by the way. We were literally drinking wine around the table last night and eating pasta, and we were like, hey, do you want to be on the show?
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really couldn't have asked for a better person to talk about this stuff with. So
I love you.
I love you too. Aw. Okay. That's it. That was fun.